welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's edition of the program, we'll be discussing about the Informal Employment Regulation Bill, which has been passed by the Nigerian Senate. We also have news stories for you. We will be right back. The Nigerian Labour Congress has suspended its planned nationwide protest over insecurity and economic policies following fresh engagement with the federal government and the Progressive Governors Forum. The decision comes barely a day after labor unions and civil society groups staged protests across several states, including Lagos. On Tuesday, members of the Nigerian Labour Congress and allied civil society organizations took to the streets in different parts of the country to protest rising insecurity, economic hardship, and worsening social welfare conditions.
Nigeria is our country. Yes. We don't have any other place we can say is a home. Yes. If all of us cannot japa, those of us who have resolved to remain in the country, our government should make the country habitable for us. Yes, sure. They should make the country secured for us. Yes, sure. They should give us an enabling environment to work. We are all tired of looking for ransom money. We are even looking for cooperative money to eat. We are looking for money for survival. And yet we also be thinking of money to pay bandits on your head. Now, it's like they are selling us and they want to purchase us and buy our lives back. Why are you negotiating with kidnappers and bandits? You have all the equipment for you to detect their bases and their hideouts. What is government waiting for? We are saying that 2025 should go with all this issue of insecurity, banditry, criminality, kidnapping, and ransom paying.
We are demanding today the immediate arrest and prosecution of the 400 terrorism financiers that were arrested by the Buhari administration in 2021. The federal government has refused to try them.
However, hours after the protest, Labour leaders announced the suspension of further action following high-level talks with the federal government convened by the Progressive Governors Forum.
We are also very grateful to Nigerian Labour Congress for the majority they exhibited, for the interest they also displayed for national security and better security for Nigeria and the welfare of Nigerian workers.
Confirming the development, Nigerian Labour Congress President Joe Ajaero says the Congress agreed to shelve the protest after receiving assurances from government, describing the move as progress, though not an instant solution.
Of meeting with the president and sending our message, that's the message, and that's the protest. And the fact that it is being addressed, I think we have achieved to a substantial extent. It's not like the insecurity will be finished today, it will be addressed today. So, but for him to say we are doing A, B, C, D, I think we are good to go.
Labour leaders say while protests have been suspended, they will continue to monitor government actions, insisting that dialogue must translate into concrete improvement in security and workers' welfare.
For the service to Pengassan. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
The General Secretary of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan, Comrade Lumumba Okugbawa, has launched a book documenting his years of experience in Nigeria's labor movement. The book, titled Holding the Line, was unveiled at a brief ceremony attended by labor leaders and family members. The book captures key moments, challenges, and lessons from Okugbawa's years in organized labor, with a focus on industrial relations, integrity, and leadership. According to the author, the publication is intended to serve as a reference for younger union leaders and workers across the oil and gas sector.
People don't understand why unionism. It's just to protect workers and improve on their welfare and condition of service. But there are rules that guide this, just like the rules of engagement. The laws were set up not only by the Pegas, but by the both international best practice and all. So people should see trade unions as partners, not as adversary. As partners of progress, your production will go, which is the major aim of all capitalists or industrialists.
Pengasan's president, Festus Osifo, says the book represents a valuable contribution to labor literature and reflects the outgoing General Secretary's commitment to dialogue and professionalism.
What that means generally is that there's a documentation of, case studies of events that has transpired since he has been in Pengasan. So documenting the life experiences over time for us is quite useful. Is more or less like a return on experience, so that the younger generation will pick it up and they will be able to learn from what has happened historically.
The author's wife also described the book as a reflection of years of dedication, sacrifice, and service.
He's a man of integrity. Lumumba has integrity. When I say, at times when I look at him like that, I'll say, sometimes if I want to do some funny thing, I'll say, this one that has integrity, I don't want to do anything that will not, because he won't find it funny. So, so that's what I know about. That's what I know as a wife. As Lumumba's wife, I know he has integrity. And when Lumumba said, this is it, just take it. You can take it to the bank. When he's going for his public relations, his IRO stuff, his labor relations stuff, he will say, let's see it as a win-win thing. You win, I win. It doesn't say, okay, let's do it this way. No, I must win. It's just me. No, he said, okay, you win, I win.
The book, Holding the Line, is expected to serve as a learning resource for labor practitioners, researchers, and trade union members.
Experts have warned that workers in Nigeria remain exposed to workplace risk as gaps persist in the enforcement of the Employees Compensation Act and the current status of the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund (NSITF). Reports show that many employers fail to contribute to the scheme, while informal workers, who constitute a large percentage of the labor force, remain outside the coverage of the 2010 Act. The current Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund (NSITF) provides compensation for workers who suffer workplace injuries, accidents, or diseases arising from employment. The objectives of the funds are in line with the Employees Compensation Act 2010. According to Act 73 of 1993, the objectives of the NSITF are provision of open and fair system of guaranteed and adequate compensation for all employees or their department, as well as rehabilitation of employees with work-related disabilities. They also include the establishment and maintenance of a solvent compensation fund managed in the interest of employees and employers, as well as provide for fair and adequate assessment for employers. The Act also aims to provide an appeal procedure that is simple and fair, with minimal delays, and combines the efforts and resources of relevant stakeholders for the prevention of workplace disabilities. At a public hearing, Senator Fasuyi Cyril presented a bill proposing amendment of the Nigeria Social Security Trust Fund Act 2025, aimed at repealing existing compensation laws.
My view about the enforcement powers, just to respond to your powers, to your fears and concerns about sealing of workplaces, is that we are subjected to a much more legal framework for exercising that power. So we want to be able to, and this is something that I'm sure we'll do on a more technical level when looking at the line-by-line clauses in the Act, that whenever we have the cause or need to do that, we will subject ourselves to the law courts to make a case for the reason to do that, and then that can then take its place. But you've also spoken about the issue of appeal. Appeal does not lie with the board. Appeal lies to the board. The board has no role in determining what the compensation quantum is and all of the indices that we take into consideration.
The NLC demands as follows: the sanctity of the tripartite governance structure. The tripartite structure of the existing management board under ECA must be preserved and strengthened. The core of the fund's governance must remain equal representation of government, employers, and labor, ensuring no single interest can dominate. We demand enhanced workers' representation. In the true spirit of tripartism, labor should have an enhanced representation. Safeguard must be maintained. We demand that the bill explicitly provide for an independent investment committee composed of financial experts with representation from labor, employers to protect the fund's assets. The board autonomy for ministerial control. I've said that. More focus on strengthening and not weakening. Instead of this amendment that negates the essence of dignity of the workplace, the National Assembly should focus on strengthening the implementation of the ECA, expanding coverage to more workers, improving claims processing, and ensuring prompt compensation for injuries and diseases. It should be more about workers' welfare.
The bill proposes a harmonized social security institution that expands protection to formal and informal workers and strengthens occupational safety and health standards. The bill, if it scales through, aims to harmonize existing laws on social insurance and employee compensation into a single, efficient framework. It also proposes the creation of a central institution to manage social security funds and expand protection for workers in formal and informal sectors against unemployment, workplace injuries, disabilities, and retirement challenges. Another objective of the bill is ensuring accountability, transparency, and sustainable financing while aligning with international labor standards. More so, the bill proposes change of name to Nigeria Social Security Trust Fund, strengthening enforcement of occupational safety and health, clarification of total monthly payroll, and replacement of the Independent Investment Committee with a board-led investment committee supported by the CBN, NECA, NLC, and the executive director. Part of the objectives is the imposition of penalties on employers who fail to report incident while ensuring such failure does not impede workers' access to compensation, as well as prohibition of any deductions from the fund created regardless of legal provisions in the law.
I want to assure you that we represent you. We wouldn't do anything that would be detrimental to you. We're here because of your votes, and we value you. Whatever decision we're taking here, the decision goes beyond our tenure. It goes beyond our lives. We would not engage in anything that would be detrimental. We want to work today against a better tomorrow.
Stakeholders in attendance described the legislation as a timely reform that could improve the welfare of employees and align Nigeria with international labor standards.
On the Profile Interview segment this week, I was speaking with the Chairman Senate Committee on Labor and Productivity, Senator Dickett Plank. It tells me about several bills that relate to the world of work and its process, procedure, and updates on what has been happening in ensuring that these bills are passed into law and also receive the presidential assent. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure, Sharon.
It seems to be a once-in-a-year appointment we usually have. The last time I spoke to you, it's about a year.
Yeah.
I'll go and check the date. Hope it's not the same date.
But it's a great privilege that you have time for me yearly. I think I'm a very privileged person.
You should make it quarterly. So you know what is happening in the world of work in terms of legislation.
That would be a great privilege. Your reportings are fine.
Thank you.
And sometimes we look forward to people to hearing about what we are doing so that probably we can be encouraged and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to have you, Sharon.
Thank you very much.
November woman. November, December visitor.
Thank you very much, sir. So recently, the Senate passed the Informal Sector Regulation Bill into law. As the chairman House Senate Committee on Labor, can you bring us up to speed on why it's important for lawmakers to, come up with a bill and also ensure that it's passed into law?
I think it's a well-thought bill by Senator Babangida, and coincidentally, Senator Sani Musa from Niger brought similar bill. So what we did at the National Assembly was to put the two bills together, harmonize the two bills to become one, and it became the Informal Employers Regulation Bill 2025. The authors of the bill, as I said again, was quite a thoughtful decision, because the bill intends to take care of a complete and comprehensive record of informal workers, house help, any other sources of services that people get from Nigerians, either domestic services people get from Nigerians. The desire to have it documented are for two reasons, two fundamental reasons. First, accountability. You are bringing somebody's child to work with you. Nigerians need to know where every Nigerian is for fear of molestation and even for the protection of the employer. You may employ someone that at the end of the day would end up being evil in your family. And if you don't have sufficient record of the person you're employing, in case should something happen, you can have a guarantor, you can identify, you can pick. It can be dangerous. So for those two reasons, fundamental reasons, accountability, so that nobody is molested, nobody is overworked, and again, for the safety of the employer, so they don't employ somebody who, at the end of the day, will become evil to you and retrogressive to you as a family. I think those two reasons are very fundamental. And again, to curtail child abuse, because there are lots of Nigerian children that live to stay with either their uncles or aunties, whether truly uncle or aunties, but sometimes from a village, because somebody is doing well, he would want to pick your child. And you don't know what the child ends up doing. So it would be very, very important for Nigerian domestic servants or domestic workers to have an accurate record of their location and the persons they engage with. And then for the safety of families too, you need to know the person that is rendering those services to your immediate family for your security and accountability.
Looking at the fact that the bill speaks against children being employed, it says if anyone that is going to be your employee has to be over 18 years. Do you think this would encourage more children to stay in school? Do you see it reducing child labor?
Yeah, I think this bill is very important, particularly for to checkmate exploitation of children against their future. The Constitution permits that at the age of 18, one is moving from being a teenager or an adolescent to an adult now, and that is the constitutional age worldwide for somebody to have the freedom of making a decision. And therefore, the decision for a child to render domestic services or service to a person, we wouldn't want the law, our own bill stipulates that the person should at least should not be less than 18 years. And that is a decisive age by the Constitution. And I think that will encourage, before you reach 18, you must be doing something. It will help our children, maybe either to school at that period, but if you would want to use a child of 10, 12 years. It can be at the detriment of their schooling. So I think the bill will give room and an opportunity for children to maybe undergo either schooling or training before you reach the age of rendering domestic service.
So moving forward, what should be the expectation of Nigerians as regards this bill? What are the next steps in terms of process?
I think that at the end of the day, it's really going to curtail the exploitation of children in families rendering domestic services, and it's even going to improve the welfare that will be given to the people that are engaged in such, because for every domestic person, for any person rendering domestic service, the person must register with the Federal Ministry of Labor. So they must know where the person is, and they must know, and there must be an idea of the average pay that will be given to the person. And then the person...
In line with the minimum wage?
Yeah. We decide something like a minimum wage for it. There must be a
but in
minimal...
terms of process, in terms of legislative process, what I'm asking is there going to be, is it going to go back to the National Assembly? Is there a timeline? What are your expectations? What should Nigerians also expect?
Nigeria should be expecting a law or an act that guides the engagement of domestic service, either in your home or in your private business. And Nigerians will also have a data where all those that are engaged in such, their names are, you can always get them. Nigerians are also going to get where, if you want a domestic service, you can go to that unit, and that unit can employ and give you. So what I'm trying to say is that we're going to have a more sanitized domestic services in our country, where the domestic person offering services is known and can be stressed and is not molested, because at the agency with the Ministry of Labor should be in position to take care of any other person. Should be a place that any discontentment, any person who has engaged you and is going out of the memorandum of understanding, you can report to. So I think we're going to have a more sanitized agency that takes care of domestic services.
Away from the domestic workers bill that's been passed to law, recently you chaired the public hearing bill, the public hearing for the Nigerian Social Security Trust Fund bill. Can you tell us what was the feedback? I know that various stakeholders were on ground to make their position. As a chairman, as a chairman Senate Committee on Labor, what are your observations?
The law establishing the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund at the moment was carefully studied in one of our retreats in 2024. And we discovered that the Act establishing NSITF and then Employers' Compensation Bill Act are two, but managed by one agency. We need to harmonize and bring them together as one act, instead of having two acts to manage the same agency. So the bill intends to put the two bills together instead of having separate bills. Put the two acts together instead of having two separate acts. Secondly, the bill is not very clear. There's not a clear line of role between board members and members of management of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. We need to separate it, where you have the board members that supervises. The board members are non-executive board members, while the management are executive members who do the day-to-day running of the agency. So we need to ensure that we separate their roles so that there will be no conflicting roles. We need that separation to be done. Then the third and most important part, one of the most important reasons for the bill was to empower the trust fund to have the capacity of reprimanding defaulters, because the Act approves that workers' salaries, there should be a remittance of 1% of workers' salaries to the social trust fund, and whoever is not obeying, failing in remittance, there should be some sort of step that can be taken by the agency. So we wanted a situation where the bill will allow the possibility of closure of any agency that does not obey what the law, what the Act says.
In terms of
implementation. So so the fundamental three reasons for the bill are to put the two acts together as one act. Secondly, to separate very clearly the functions of both members and management section of the trust fund. And thirdly, to empower the trust fund to be able to ensure that remittance of 1% and all other expectations of the law are properly and conveniently executed.
On a final note, how would you assess the year 2025, and what should Nigerians be expecting from the Senate in the year 2026? And maybe what's your people, the good people of Plateau, should be expecting?
2025 have tested all Nigerians in different ways, economically, socially, in terms of security, and so on and so forth. But Nigerians are very gallant, particularly towards the end of the year where there's insecurity all over. But the National Assembly is patriotic and very determined, very, very determined to ensure that we fairly represent Nigerians. We are succeeding. I think what we need to do is tolerate each other, be more patriotic, much more nationalistic. I believe that Nigeria will definitely succeed. Recently, the president has been very stable, very much available to ensure that the issue of this insecurity is tackled. The appointment of a new Minister of Defense is a political appointment, but he is placing someone who is a professional to be the political head, a four-star general as a minister. I believe that there can be, Nigerians are expecting more coordination. I think that we will definitely succeed.
Thank you very much for your time.
Sharon, you're welcome.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.